I sprawled on my couch, phone gripped tightly, stomach churning as I reread the text from my sister Piper. Caroline, just letting you know the guest list for my engagement party is final. We had to make cuts due to space limitations. Hope you understand. My chest tightened painfully. Me, the one who'd connected Piper with fashion industry executives, who'd stayed up countless nights reviewing her portfolio, who'd loaned her thousands for design school, cut from her engagement party to Kevin, a marketing director she'd met through my professional network. I stared at the screen, hoping for a follow-up. Just kidding. You're my honored guest. But nothing came. Just cold digital silence. No explanation. No remorse. Something heavy settled in my chest, not sharp enough to make me scream, but crushing enough that each breath felt like lifting weights. I'd been Piper's backbone through college when our parents couldn't grasp her career ambitions. I'd spent hours on video calls coaching her before major interviews. I'd designed her stunning digital invitations, meticulously perfecting every pixel because she needed them to look industry standard. Now I was erased like some casual acquaintance. An afterthought. Unable to process this betrayal, I called Dad. He'd been enthusiastically discussing this event for weeks, the gourmet catering, the string quartet, the projection screens for Piper's design portfolio. Hello, Caroline. What's up, sweetheart? His voice sounded cautious. Piper just texted. I'm not invited to her engagement party. You knew, didn't you? The silence followed by his deep sigh told me everything. Caroline, don't overreact. It's just a gathering. Space is limited, you know. I bit my lip hard. Limited space. I saw her social media story with 80+ guests, distant cousins, college roommates, co-workers she's known for months. And me. I'm her sister, Dad. He cleared his throat uncomfortably. Those people confirmed early. It's awkward to uninvite them now. Don't take it personally. My knuckles whitened around the phone. Not personally. I helped build her entire career. I stayed up all night before her first big interview. And you're telling me not to overreact? Another dismissive sigh. Don't make this into something. It's just one evening. I hung up, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Scrolling through old messages, her grateful text when I covered her rent during her unpaid internship, her heart emojis when I flew cross-country for her design school graduation, felt like reading fiction now. Standing up, I gazed out at Seattle's gray skyline. I wasn't angry at Piper for excluding me. I was furious that she saw nothing wrong with it. Mostly, I was angry at myself for always being there, too supportive, too generous, too forgiving. I made a decision as heavy clouds gathered outside. I wouldn't beg for a place at anyone's table anymore. I sat motionless, ripping a mug of cold coffee. Dad's dismissive words echoed, "It's just a gathering." His tone made my feelings seem trivial, my hurt unworthy of acknowledgement. How could I not be wounded when my own family so casually deemed me dispensable? I walked to my home office, with marketing campaign drafts scattered across my desk. Opening a drawer, I pulled out a USB drive containing the Congratulations Piper engagement announcement, a professional design I created without being asked, because that's what sisters do. I recalled staying awake until 2 a.m. perfecting the typography Piper insisted on, something modern yet elegant. She sent a quick heart emoji after I delivered the files. She never properly thanked me, but I didn't mind then. Her success felt like enough reward. I remembered her panicked call before her first major interview. Caroline, my portfolio presentation crashed. I don't know what to do. Without hesitation, I rebuilt her entire digital showcase overnight, forwarding it with a simple note, all fixed. You'll do great. When she moved to New York for her first fashion internship, Mom was overwhelmed by logistics and Dad was busy with work. I researched affordable apartments, created her budget spreadsheet, and flew cross-country to help her settle in. Now I wasn't even worthy of attending her engagement celebration. I opened my computer to a folder labeled Piper's career path from her college graduation to screenshots of our strategy sessions planning her industry networking approach. My phone buzzed with a message from Kevin. Caroline, heard about the guest list situation. Honestly, I was surprised too, but Piper doesn't want the event feeling too industry-focused. Nothing personal. His words chilled me, not from what he said, but how they spoke about me, an inconvenient presence. I didn't respond. No need. I moved to the window overlooking downtown Seattle, watching the city lights illuminate my upscale neighborhood, 1,200 miles from my parents' home. Yet I always returned whenever they needed anything. When Dad needed investment advice for retirement, I researched options for weeks. When mom required specialized treatment, I found the doctors, scheduled appointments, and covered costs insurance wouldn't. Always available, always reliable. Now I questioned, how many times had I given without reciprocation? How often had I sacrificed simply from obligation? From being the responsible eldest daughter? My phone buzzed again. Dad, Caroline, don't analyze this too deeply. It's not worth the upset. Try understanding Piper's perspective. She wants a relaxed evening. No complications. I laughed hollowly. No complications? So I'm the complication? My mere presence ruins my sister's peace? I retrieved my luggage from the closet. The designer snow boots I'd purchased months ago but never worn waited expectantly. Opening my laptop, I searched, luxury ski resort Wyoming. Images of secluded mountain chalets, pristine snow-covered peaks, and roaring fireplaces filled my screen. In that moment, I decided to stop waiting for invitations. I would create my own celebration. If they deemed me unimportant for her party, I refused to remain here, accepting treatment as an afterthought. I was finished being the sister perpetually backstage, sacrificing silently. Not anymore. Never again. The next morning, I left my apartment earlier than usual. The ache of exclusion still throbbed, but rather than wallowing at home, I grabbed my designer handbag and headed to Riverside Cafe, my weekend sanctuary in downtown Seattle. The morning air carried winter's lingering chill. Inside, warmth enveloped me with aromas of freshly baked pastries and soft piano jazz that slightly soothed my wounded spirit. I ordered my usual, a black espresso and gluten-free scone, then selected a quiet corner where sunlight streamed across the polished marble tabletop. As I reached for my phone, voices from the adjacent table suddenly became distinct. I wasn't intentionally listening until I heard my name, sending ice through my veins. Caroline? Piper's sister. Didn't see her name on the engagement party guest list. It was Veronica, my cousin who strategically speaks at perfect volume to ensure others overhear. Maybe she sabotaged something. I mean, who excludes their own sister unless she did something terrible? Always heard she was controlling about Piper's career. I froze. The second voice belonged to Danielle, another cousin who'd once requested free marketing consultation for her business launch, then never acknowledged my 20-page strategy document. Probably stopped her financial support. Remember how she funded Piper's first collection? Now there's suddenly nothing when Piper's finally successful. Honestly, can't blame Piper. Who needs someone making everything about themselves at an engagement celebration? The impact felt physical, a slap across my face. My ears burned while my throat constricted. I remained perfectly still, staring at my untouched coffee, each syllable slicing through my remaining family loyalty. I don't recall how long their conversation continued. I only remember standing, my coffee untouched, feeling hollowed out. I exited silently, clutching my bag strap until my knuckles whitened. Their words weren't mere gossip but confirmation. I was the inconvenient relative. Walking aimlessly, I found myself before a boutique fashion shop where Piper and I had spent countless hours before her college interviews. She was once that nervous younger sister who needed my confidence in crowded rooms. I remembered her clutching a fashion magazine, eyes bright with ambition. If I ever launch my own collection, would you help me? I squeezed her hand and promised, I'll support you every step. I'd honored that commitment unfailingly. What I hadn't anticipated was how quickly my sisterhood would be replaced by whispered criticisms and suspicious glances from our own family. Reviewing the unacknowledged messages from Dad, Kevin, and Piper confirmed one undeniable truth: none believed excluding me was wrong. They simply thought I was overreacting, making unnecessary waves, being difficult. I didn't want apologies. I wanted respect, something clearly never genuinely granted. I returned home, my decision crystallized. I refused to accept the difficult sister label any longer. If they decided I didn't belong at their celebration, I wouldn't remain their perpetual problem solver. Opening my laptop to the travel site, I bypassed Aspen and Vail, selecting instead an unexpected destination, White Pine Lodge, Wyoming. A luxurious private cabin surrounded by ancient pines beside a pristine mountain lake. Complete solitude. No scrutiny. No obligations. I confirmed the reservation. At that moment, Wyoming's possibilities remained unknown, but one certainty emerged: I was finished being the disposable sister. That evening, I sat cross-legged on my living room floor, warm amber light casting shadows across polished hardwood. My empty Rimowa suitcase gaped open beside me like an expectant mouth. The penthouse was so silent I could hear my watch ticking steadily. I'd just confirmed my reservation at White Pine Lodge, an exclusive Wyoming retreat I'd never considered before, now symbolizing the first step of my self-liberation. I didn't select economy tickets. Not this time. I chose first class without hesitation, my cursor clicking confirm payment without the usual anxiety. After years of prioritizing everyone else's needs, meticulously planning events that never acknowledged me, this moment belonged entirely to me. Every single decision. The accommodation I selected was a secluded lakeside cabin featuring floor-to-ceiling windows framing snow-capped mountains and a magnificent stone fireplace. The package included private ski instruction, unlimited lift access, and nightly chef-prepared dining. The total might shock most people, but I felt nothing but satisfaction. I'd spent years funding others' dreams. This investment was finally for myself. Friday morning found me at the airport 2 hours early, wrapped in a cashmere coat with the designer boots I'd purchased months ago but never worn. Relaxing in the first-class lounge, cradling artisanal tea between my palms, watching jets taxi across tarmac, I experienced unexpected lightness, as if severing invisible threads that had bound me to years of unreciprocated obligation. The flight passed seamlessly. Flight attendants treated me with genuine deference, and perhaps for the first time, I felt deserving of such treatment. Landing in Jackson Hole, bitter cold air sliced through my lungs, a welcome shock that crystallized my thoughts, purging lingering traces of dismissive words and vacant stares that had rendered me invisible. My driver, a distinguished man called Vincent with silver-streaked beard and resonant voice, greeted me warmly. "First visit to White Pine?" he asked, adjusting his rearview mirror. "Yes. I've heard it's spectacular." Hoping reality matches reputation. "It surpasses expectations," he smiled knowingly. "People discover themselves here. Perhaps that's your journey too." After brief contemplation, I nodded. Perhaps it is. The route wound through pristine forests, with elegant chalets dotting snowbanks like illustrations from luxury travel magazines. As White Pine Lodge appeared, my breath caught momentarily. It was magnificent, a grand structure of reclaimed timber and natural stone, with snow-laden cedar shingles and smoke curling from massive chimneys against mountain backdrops. The concierge, Sophia, a poised woman with elegant platinum hair and impeccable posture, welcomed me personally. "Ms. Caroline, welcome. Your premium cabin is prepared, and here's our signature Cabernet. We wish you an extraordinary stay." I accepted the crystal glass, my hand trembling slightly from the temperature, or perhaps from unfamiliar emotion. My cabin occupied the most exclusive section of the property. Stepping inside, radiant heat from the stone fireplace warmed my face immediately. A king bed with goose-down duvet. A leather reading chair positioned perfectly fireside. Curated bookshelves featuring literary classics. Beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, a pristine frozen lake reflected purple-hued alpenglow. Setting down my luggage, I sank into the plush alpaca rug, savored my wine, and embraced the silence. No demanding notifications. No manipulative messages. No pressure to maintain family peace. Just myself and tranquility I'd yearned for silently for years. I photographed the breathtaking view, adding the caption, "Create your own guest list." I scheduled posting for precisely when Piper's celebration would begin, ensuring they'd understand my absence was deliberate, chosen with dignity. That evening, I reclined by crackling flames with Hemingway's essays, occasionally watching snowflakes dance beyond glass walls. In that perfect stillness, absolute certainty washed over me, I'd finally made the right choice. I had just poured another glass of Cabernet when my phone vibrated 3 times in quick succession. The screen displayed Mother with those pulsing ellipses indicating she was crafting an elaborate message. I ignored it, instead tucking my legs beneath me in the plush armchair, drawing a cashmere throw over my knees, and savoring the wine's complex notes of blackberry and cedar, rich and sophisticated, utterly unlike the digital chaos accumulating in my notifications. As anticipated, the moment my cabin photograph went live, precisely timed to coincide with Piper's celebration, my family's reactions erupted. My simple caption, "Create your own invitation," when excluded from theirs, paired with the image of me fireside, crystal glass raised against a backdrop of snow-dusted pines, required no explanation. The message was unmistakable. The barrage began immediately. "Mother, Caroline, what exactly are you trying to prove? Don't allow emotions to cloud your judgment. Everyone assumed you'd still attend." "Father, this is Piper's engagement celebration. Not the appropriate moment for dramatic statements." "Piper, seriously? Broadcasting this passive-aggressive post for everyone to dissect. What's your endgame?" I laughed softly. "My endgame? Simple acknowledgement of my existence. Apparently still too much to request from my own family. Minutes later came a message from Kevin, Piper's picture-perfect fiancé, who once effusively thanked me for connecting him with fashion industry executives, yet now remained conspicuously silent about my exclusion. Kevin, Caroline, I hate seeing this tension. But escalating publicly only complicates matters. You're putting Piper in an impossible position. Setting my glass aside, I watch flames dance across birch logs. Piper in an impossible position. When had my feelings ever factored into their calculations? The campaign continued next morning after I posted breakfast photos captioned, mountain air, gourmet coffee, and complete autonomy over my emotional state. The first call came from Aunt Eleanor, mother's sister, perpetually dedicated to maintaining superficial family harmony. Her voicemail arrived promptly after I declined her call. Caroline, darling, expressing disappointment is understandable, but publicly? People will assume you're deliberately undermining family unity. Please return, communicate maturely, and participate appropriately. Don't magnify this minor oversight. Tears sprang unexpectedly. Not one inquiry about why I'd been excluded. No concern for my well-being. Their collective energy focused entirely on impression management, surface appearances, uncomfortable conversations avoided. Meanwhile, I remained merely an inconvenient name erased, then faulted for responding inappropriately. The realization crystallized with Arctic clarity. I wasn't overreacting, they simply couldn't process my unprecedented self-advocacy. I photographed the pristine lake outside my window, sunlight fracturing across its frozen surface into diamond patterns. I posted it without caption, just a simple thumbs-up emoji. Almost immediately, business colleagues responded. Embracing your worth, Caroline. Wish I had your courage to distance myself from toxic relationships. I spent decades as my family's invisible support system. Your posts resonate profoundly. Each comment resonated deeply. While my family painted me as problematic, complete strangers recognized my situation with perfect clarity. That evening, as firelight diminished to glowing coals, I discovered Piper's latest message: if you'd just shown up anyway, none of this drama would exist. Cannot comprehend why you've manufactured this elaborate teaching moment. I drafted several responses before settling on, this lesson wasn't designed for you. It's entirely for me. And I'll preserve it permanently. Pressing send, I felt no conflict, no regret, only profound tranquility. Another step away from that lifelong pattern of sacrifice dignity for conditional acceptance. I sat cross-legged on the cabin's heated floors beside panoramic windows, wrapped in cashmere, sipping artisanal hot chocolate when my phone rang. It was Abigail, my cousin from mother's side, the only family member I maintained contact with, appreciating her remarkable ability to avoid petty conflicts and her genuine kindness toward others. I answered, and her breathless voice exploded through the speaker. Caroline. Oh my God. You need to sit down. What just happened is absolutely unbelievable. I smiled faintly, taking another sip. Let me guess. Someone criticized Piper's dress? Or Kevin embarrassed himself with grandmother? No. This is catastrophically beyond that. I straightened, sensing impending family chaos. Abigail's voice dropped conspiratorially, as if concealed in some corner to make this call. Piper got completely drunk and publicly humiliated Kevin by throwing champagne in his face before storming out. My chocolate nearly spilled. What? Exactly. Kevin was caught flirting extensively with Natasha Reynolds, his former marketing colleague. The one Piper explicitly banned from all social gatherings. I leaned forward, pulse quickening. Natasha Reynolds, that name alone triggered memories of professional boundaries repeatedly crossed. Piper never learned to establish clear expectations. Piper actually left her own engagement party? Abigail laughed triumphantly. Not merely left. Before her dramatic exit, she announced to everyone, I deluded myself thinking you'd matured into someone worthy of commitment. Then, splash. Champagne drenching his custom-tailored Armani. The entire room froze in collective shock. I wavered between laughter and disbelief. And Kevin's reaction. Complete meltdown. Punched the marble column by the entrance. Result. Fractured hand. Precisely. Right hand swollen dramatically. Medical assistance required. Mother dissolved into tears, lamenting my perfect evening ruined forever. Father frantically attempted damage control while distinguished guests discreetly evacuated. I moved to the kitchenette, set down my mug, and leaned against imported granite countertops. The chaotic sequence assembled into something tragically comedic. Abigail continued eagerly. Uncle Richard, constantly bragging about his executive connections. Became outrageously intoxicated, stumbled dramatically, and collapsed directly into the seafood display. Laughter escaped me. Impossible. Absolutely happened. But wait, grandmother's response was magnificent. Care to guess? I remained silent, anticipating something momentous. Abigail inhaled deeply, her voice dropping reverentially. She addressed Piper directly, mascara streaked, designer dress ruined, saying, "You now suffer consequences of excluding the one person who supported you unconditionally. Divine grace abandons those who reject their own blood." I stood motionless, stunned. Grandmother had always seemed to prioritize harmony above fairness. Today she chose truth instead. Abigail continued. She rose regally, grasped her silver-handled cane, and departed with extraordinary dignity. Complete silence followed. Caroline, your physical absence created the most powerful presence tonight. Returning to my window seat, I clutched the phone tightly. I'm completely speechless. Abigail laughed softly. No response necessary. Your absence forced recognition of your importance. They orchestrated their own undoing. For once, you're not managing their catastrophe. Outside, snow continued falling silently. Pristine forest surrounded my sanctuary, undisturbed and serene. Within and without, perfect tranquility prevailed. Somehow, amid chaos at a celebration from which I was deliberately excluded, I discovered genuine freedom. I had just emerged from the private hot spring on my cabin's deck, wrapping a plush towel around my shoulders still fragrant with essential oils, when my phone vibrated. Another message, this one from Piper: "If you'd been present, this disaster would have been avoided." I stared at those words, my finger hovering between competing impulses, delete immediately or preserve as evidence that some statements, once expressed, remain indelible. I chose not to respond. Instead, I settled into an Adirondack chair beside the outdoor fire pit, watching snowflakes accumulate on evergreen boughs, experiencing an unusual blend of resentment and detached amusement. They designated me family guardian for years, only to collapse when I ceased absorbing their consequences. My phone vibrated again. Mother, this time, when will this childish behavior end? Piper's emotionally devastated, and your father and I are handling everything alone. Why do you vanish precisely when family requires you most? I inhaled deeply, containing my rising anger. These accusations were lifelong refrains. You're never available when needed. Why can't you be accommodating like your sister? Family requires sacrifice. But something fundamental had changed within me. I refused to shoulder responsibilities assigned without my consultation. Father's missed call produced this voicemail: "Caroline, destroying relationships over a party invitation seems profoundly immature. Your mother hasn't stopped crying, and Piper's suffering, physically and emotionally. As an adult, surely you recognize when reconciliation becomes necessary." My expression hardened as another notification appeared. "Kevin now, Caroline, I recognize I lack standing to request anything, but I'm completely overwhelmed. I can't face Piper, her parents, our social circle. Everyone views me as the villain. If you'd just speak with Piper briefly, perhaps she'd regain perspective." A chill penetrated deeper than winter air. They were transferring blame entirely to me. Not once had anyone questioned why I wasn't invited. None considered I might have withdrawn because exhaustion had finally overwhelmed me, fatigue from perpetually repairing what others carelessly fractured. I opened my notes application and typed, "Absence during chaos doesn't constitute responsibility for creating it." Rising, I returned indoors, prepared mint tea, and cracked the window slightly. Frigid air carried pine scent and crystalline freshness. The certainty crystallized. Returning meant resuming my position collecting shattered pieces. The person deemed insignificant until catastrophe struck. Most absurd was my complete non-involvement. Piper overindulged. Kevin flirted inappropriately. My parents lost composure. My contribution? Mere absence. Yet somehow I became the narrative's central villain. I reviewed each message, lingering on Mother's childish accusation. I forwarded it to myself, labeled the thread reasons for maintaining distance, then silenced all family conversations. I required quiet, not to forget, but to preserve precise recollection of why departure became necessary. As darkness descended, firelight cast amber patterns across timber walls. I opened my novel about psychological healing and read methodically. No interruptions. No manipulative communications. Only wind whispering against windows and literature speaking of liberation. With absolute clarity, I recognized I'd permanently left behind my assigned identity, the silent absorber, the peacekeeper, the one forbidden from expressing anger, hurt, or boundaries. I awakened to morning light filtering through wooden shutters, casting amber patterns across my platinum duvet. Mountain breeze whispered against glass, harmonizing with soft snowfall accumulating on cedar shingles. My spirit felt profoundly tranquil. My phone rested silent on marble, merely an inert technological object. I'd activated airplane mode after reading Kevin's final manipulation, then methodically blocked them all, Piper, mother, father, and every relative who presumed entitlement to judge my choices. Guilt remained remarkably absent. Instead, authentic serenity embraced me for the first time in years. Following an uncomplicated breakfast of artisanal sourdough and single-origin espresso, I dressed in premium ski apparel and ventured outside. The panorama unfolded magnificently, majestic evergreens crowned with crystalline powder, sunlight illuminating pristine slopes, distant figures laughing as they prepared equipment. My private instruction began with Vincent, a distinguished instructor with striking silver blonde hair, genuine smile and perceptive azure eyes reflecting intuitive understanding. He adjusted my position with professional precision, offering encouragement through inevitable early missteps. Don't resist the mountain, Caroline. Release tension. Your body inherently understands the correct response. Following my third tumble, snow clinging to my designer outerwear, I laughed genuinely. That observation transcends skiing technique. Perhaps it does. Vincent smiled knowingly. Many guests arrive seeking escape, only to discover while descending their first slope that freedom, not escape, was their actual requirement. Something resonated profoundly within me. He couldn't possibly comprehend how accurately his insight reflected my circumstances. That afternoon, I participated in an exclusive snowshoe expedition circumnavigating the pristine lake. Our guide, Sophia, exuded warmth and sophisticated humor. Beside me walked Julian and Monica from San Francisco, successful entrepreneurs enjoying their traditional winter retreat at White Pine. First solo adventure? Monica inquired as we paused beneath an ancient pine. I nodded, slightly reserved. Yes, and first experience without carrying others' expectations. Julian smiled, indicating our circular trail pattern in unmarked snow. You've chosen correctly. Significant journeys often involve departing rather than arriving. Evening found me at the lodge's renowned fireside lounge, subdued lighting, acoustic jazz, sophisticated guests gathered around massive stone hearths enjoying premium spirits and enlightening conversation. Vincent noticed my entrance and welcomed me to join his assembled companions. Accepting a glass of exceptional Cabernet, I soon found myself laughing unreservedly at a Swiss financier's self-deprecating account of his spectacular skiing miscalculation. Not one person inquired about my background or solitary status. I realized the profound gift strangers sometimes offer, respecting psychological boundaries without interrogation. Returning to my cabin, cheeks flushed from exceptional wine and winter air, my spirit felt remarkably lightened. Removing outerwear, wrapping myself in cashmere, I settled before crackling flames. Pine logs sparked and popped while I retrieved my leather-bound journal, turning to its first unmarked page. I composed my initial entry in countless months. Liberation isn't escapism. It's refusing re-entry into environments that diminish your essence. Closing the journal deliberately, I reactivated my phone for the first time since arrival. Dozens of notifications illuminated the screen, but I bypassed them entirely without examination. Instead, I verified my blocking settings remained comprehensive. I required no additional justifications. Further explanations for my exclusion were unnecessary. Self-prioritization had become my clearest commitment. Raising my phone, I captured the breathtaking vista, moonlight transforming the frozen lake into silver glass, elongated tree shadows extending across unblemished snow. My caption read simply, never vanished. Simply began existing authentically. No additional context. No external validation required. Only myself, genuinely embodying self-sovereignty. I reclined on my private terrace, wrapped in cashmere, feet elevated on a handcrafted ottoman dusted with melting snowflakes, cradling artisanal coffee between my palms. Dawn illuminated distant peaks with golden light, filtering through snow-laden branches like nature's own silk canopy. My notifications remained blissfully silent. No intrusive calls. Only gentle mountain breezes and my heartbeat, steady and centered, a life rhythm I'd nearly forgotten existed within me. That morning, approaching the concierge desk regarding airport transportation, I paused abruptly. My gaze fixed on the elegant wall calendar, specifically Sunday's crimson circle marking my scheduled departure. I addressed Sophia, whose genuine smile radiated warmth. Is my cabin available for an additional week? She responded without surprise, head tilting slightly while checking reservations. Fortuitously, it remains unbooked. Shall I extend your stay? I confirmed without hesitation. Returning home inspired no fear. I simply saw no compelling reason to leave this place where authentic self-connection had finally emerged. Later, while savoring reserve Cabernet in the lodge's fireside lounge, Abigail, my sole remaining family contact, messaged, "Mother's organizing an intervention disguised as family reconciliation next week. You're designated as guest of honor." Leaning back, watching amber light refract through crystal stemware, I smiled knowingly. Not from resentment, but from recognizing this predictable pattern, concern masking manipulation, collective pressure designed to force me back into the role of accommodating peacemaker. I responded concisely, currently occupied with self-discovery. Manage your situation independently. No artificial enthusiasm. No performative warmth. Just final closure requiring no reconsideration. I deactivated the screen, placed the device face down, and disregarded it completely thereafter. Subsequent days flowed like pristine mountain streams, serene and restorative. Mornings brought skiing lessons with Vincent, afternoons featured lakeside excursions with newfound companions, evenings passed sharing fireside conversations with Julian about wilderness adventures in Montana. Nobody interrogated me about family dynamics or personal history. We existed purely in present moments, unencumbered by explanations of past circumstances. One tranquil morning, absorbed in literature within my cabin, I realized several days had passed without obligation-induced anxiety. The weight of responsibility for others' emotional stability had lifted. The pressure of external validation had dissolved. Previously, I'd attempted embodying every impossible role: perfect daughter, supportive sister, unfailingly reliable confidant. Now I understood, living through others' perceptions creates only a diluted version of oneself. Today I existed simply as Caroline, a woman enjoying mountain solitude, embracing natural elements, allowing sunlight to warm a heart that had finally ceased fracturing. Setting aside my book, I moved onto the balcony, coffee in hand. Mountains stood immutable, majestic, seemingly understanding silent suffering. Breathing deeply, I attended to my internal rhythm, centered, grounded. Post-vacation plans remained unformed, but one certainty prevailed: I'd discovered authentic selfhood where least expected. Henceforth, no one would erase my presence from my own narrative. This journey taught me one profound truth: sometimes courage manifests not through confrontation but through walking away towards self-liberation. I'd incorrectly believed my presence maintained family cohesion. In reality, my departure forced necessary self-reflection upon them. Within this tranquil, pristine landscape, I reclaimed my long-silenced voice. No longer seeking recognition, I defined my worth through the powerful statement of absence. What's your perspective on Caroline's decision? Should she return or continue her independent journey? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more compelling family narratives.